All right, Jordan, I'm pumped to have you on the show, man, because you're just one of those guys that you want to be in a room with. And I think this is probably why the book you wrote, The Art of Encouragement, makes so much sense. Because when I look at you, that's how I view you as an encourager. And I have always felt that I'm an encourager. And then I met you, and it was like, wait, is he more of an encourager than me? And I'm like, wait a second, he's got my superpower. So I just love, in general, as a human being, you are a delight to be around, and it's magnetic. And I'm excited to just have you on the show and share some of that wisdom with my audience today.
Well, right back at you, man. Honored to be here. And you've always been a guy who's elevated me, lifted me up. Love your positive energy. And there's a reason that we're friends and that we cross paths. And so, yeah, awesome to be on the show, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Well, I want to get into the book here in a second, but I will say, like, the topic of encouragement. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because I think encouragement is a superpower. I was asked by somebody recently, like, what's the one thing, I don't know how they phrased it, like, that is like your constant that's made you successful over the years. And I've always viewed it as like this hybrid between, I'll use the word encouragement or empowerment. Like, as a content creator, someone who's been on YouTube podcasting for 15 years, whatever it is, like, I've known I'm not an educator. That's true. I am trying to teach and convey information, and then I sell information and all that kind of stuff. But I've always viewed, like, information falls flat. There's lots of how-to tutorials, whether it's in the music space or now in the business space that I teach. The ones that stand out to me are the ones that, like, they impart some encouragement and belief and empowerment into that message, so that when someone walks away from a simple how-to, they're like, I feel like Graham just, like, spoke some life into me. Like, I feel like I could actually go do the thing he was teaching me how to do. So that's one way I think about encouragement. But I'm curious for, like, you, how do you define encouragement? Why is it such a transformational tool in your personal life, with your relationships, but also in the professional arena?
Well, I think for one, it's a universal language that everyone understands, right? John Maxwell asked the famous question, how do you know if someone needs to be encouraged? And then he answered his own question and said, they have a pulse. So first and foremost, everyone needs
Yep.
it, right? This is an inclusive and relevant topic. No one's exempt from it.
Hmm.
We all want people to believe in us and deposit belief and energy and transfer energy and belief. And so I've also been just the beneficiary of encouragement. I've had some people in my life in some really trying times, Graham, step into my path and help me out, lift me up. People chose to see the best in me, even on the days when I didn't deserve it. I had people stick the proverbial 10 on my forehead when I was probably a 2, maybe even
Yeah.
worse than that. And so, man, I just know the direct impact that people have had on my life, some of the best encouragers I know. And I wanted to write a book because of that. I also think that encouragement is a complex topic. It sounds simple, and we tell people, hey, be more encouraging or go encourage someone. The reality is it's an art form, just like anything else. And so we decided to break that down in the book. There's 10 arts to encouragement. If we really want to be effective communicators, leaders, encouragers, I think we have to understand the science and the art. I will say this, it comes natural to some people. It doesn't to everyone. For you, Graham, I think this comes natural. I think you're a natural encourager. That's part of who God made you to be. But even for those where it comes natural, I think we need reminders.
Yeah.
What really resonates with people and what doesn't resonate with people. And then to your point about the content creation side of things, I think we all value content that makes us feel something. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't just get some knowledge, I didn't just get some wisdom or a fun idea, but that post actually made me feel something. And so in the book, we talk about this idea that psychology beats strategy. So if
Mm.
I'm a salesperson, man, sales psychology always beats sales strategy. If I'm a leadership person, leadership psychology always beats leadership strategy. In other words, it's not about what people hear you say, it's about the way that you make them feel. And so we wanted to tap
Yeah.
into that, dissect the topic of encouragement, and share some thoughts on what encouragement has meant to me.
Yeah, that's so good. I want to get into those, but just to that point, it's funny, Jordan, when I started to get bigger in the music recording space for my first business, the Recording Revolution, um, and it wasn't a little tiny channel. It was like I was becoming like the biggest YouTube channel in this space. There were some people that came out of the woodwork who were more acclaimed producers than I would. Like, their client list are impressive musicians. My client list is like all indie artists, and And so some of these people were coming out, I was like, who's this Graham guy? Like, why are people listening to him? Like, he's a nobody, which technically true. Like I wasn't famous. And so there was a few moments on a couple of Facebook groups and a couple of threads. This is even before Reddit was a thing, but it would have been like an angry Reddit thread basically of like, who's this Graham Cochran guy? Why do people listen to him? They shouldn't listen to him. Like, where are his artists? Where are his clients? What are they charting? What are they doing? And it was it was, sad at first because my feelings were hurt that these people were angry. Some of them were my heroes, and they were like criticizing me. But it was interesting was I was really curious as why do people listen to me? Because they're listening to me and not listening to these guys. Like some of them were trying to have their own content, but nobody cared about their content. Why did they care about mine? It wasn't that I was more famous or had higher clientele. It wasn't even that I was better at the art of what I was teaching than they were. I think they were more skilled than I was at the thing I was teaching, music recording. But it's, to your point, it's how I made my audience feel. It's how I was like this voice in their ear, I think, of like when I would ask them, why do you watch my videos or read my articles or listen to my stuff? And like, bro, like, I feel like I can go do anything. Like after your videos, I feel like you're the person that made me believe I can go do it. And it was hard for me to quantify what that was, but that sounds like encouragement with your definition of it's how people are, not just what you're saying, but how they're feeling after interacting with you. So I just wanted to validate that. And I want to get into the book real quick first, so people have a better picture of you, because you do this as not only like a world-class speaker, but you do this as a performance coach. And you're working with top leaders and elite athletes, like NFL players. Like, so just tell me a little bit about like, how did you get into the work you're doing now, and why is encouragement so powerful in your business?
Well, I fell into the work that I'm doing now. I'll take you back to 2015. I was 27 years old. I was running a financial services firm, Fortune 100 firm, having a great deal of success at a young age. And I was just a blue collar guy. Like I a blue collar background. Dad was a painter, mom was a teacher. So I never really knew a lot about money, but I knew a lot about work, and I knew how to work. And so, Graham, I just went to work, man. I graduated from the University of Iowa, and I got to work. And I worked the 60, 70-hour weeks and fell in love with not so much financial planning, but really fell in love with the relationship side of the business and just grew relationships, built a business. And because of that, I had some influence and credibility in that industry. And so then I was flying all over the country to teach and train and speak. And I was living this life of luxury, and it all snowballed really, really fast. I had one problem. I was overexposed and I was underdeveloped. And so
Wow.
my character wasn't really keeping pace with my influence. And eventually that sort of caught up to me. Got a call April 1st, 2015 from my then supervisor. He said, Jordan, I need to talk to you. Because I was naive, I said, hey, boss, not today. I got things to do.
Oh my
And
gosh,
I
bro.
kind of tried to give him the stiff arm, right? Like, man, I got a full day of meetings. Like, that's just who I was
Yeah.
at the time. And he said, well, this is one of those meetings where you clear your calendar.
Wow.
And so I thought, man, somebody on my team must have made a big mistake. I better go fix it. So 2 hours later, Graham, I'm in his office. I walk into his office. I'll never forget the first words out of his mouth. He said, you haven't been malicious or intentional, but you've been careless and casual. And when you're casual, you create casualties.
Wow.
And today is going to be your last day at our firm.
Oh,
And so just like that, my whole life changed. There was a person on my team who'd taken a test on my behalf. It was an internal CE, but that's an infraction in the industry. Can't happen. I didn't report it. And moreover, I just wasn't dotting the I's, crossing the T's. Again, it was nothing malicious or intentional, but I was just running so hard in the pursuit of things that ultimately didn't really matter, like success and awards and achievement, etc. And I don't think God caused it, but I think he allowed it. I think eventually he said, you know what? I'm not going to allow you to live for these things. And so on that day, my whole life changed. And I was involved in some real estate deals. The deals go sideways because they weren't structured properly. Like literally within 30 days, Graham, I go from the penthouse to the outhouse. The company sends out a company-wide email because I had done so much work inside that company. Unbelievably embarrassing. Like,
wow.
and for somebody who spent kind of his whole professional career building this sort of resume and living for achievement and status, it just rocked me from the inside out. So man, I moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota. I go to work for a guy named Tim Bohannon. He takes me back in. I'm still in the financial services industry. Actually, same firm, but I didn't have any of my clients. And he put me in a corner office and he said, here's how this is going to work. You're going to rebuild your business. You're going to rebuild your life. I'm going to help you do that, but it's going to be hard. No teaching, no training, no speaking. You're just going to work on yourself. And you're going to do that for 2 years. And then after that, we'll see what happens.
Mm.
Well, at the end of that 2 years, Graham, I met my now wife. Her name's Ashley. She lived in Iowa. I'll save you some of the details. When I moved back to Iowa to pursue my now wife, she had 2 children at the time. Our 2 oldest are my adopted girls. We're a family of 6 now. We have 4 children total. But God just opened a door, man, and prepared me for my greatest leadership opportunity, which was the opportunity to be a dad and a husband. Sometimes I think God's preparation for our lives is packaged as pain. And I had to go through some things. I think God had to do something in me before he did something with me. So I'm doing financial planning in Iowa, Graham. I look at my wife one day and I'm like, this business just isn't the same. All that I've been through, I really feel called to help people, specifically those who are struggling with stuff. Like I just feel like because of what I've been through, I've got a unique perspective and ability to really help people. It was Ed Milet who said, you are best positioned to help the person that you used to be. So today I spend a lot of my time helping young professionals and young athletes and leaders build their character, make wise decisions, and grow. And so I looked at my wife and said, I think I could coach some people, coach 5 people, turn into 10, 10 turn into 20. Eventually I looked at her and I said, I think I've called to this business and I think we have to sell the financial planning business. So we did that, went all in 2018, God's blessed it. And we just haven't looked back. And so today we get to coach with thousands of people and some really high level leaders across multiple industries and get to do some work in the NFL and NBA. And I can't really explain it. I'm just a kid from the cornfields of Iowa. I graduated Iowa with a 2.5 GPA. I'm not the smartest, never been the most creative. I just had this really hard experience that positioned me to help people, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I heard Tim Tebow say this the other day. He said, your deepest hurt can become your greatest ministry.
Mm.
And so I just kind of look at our work like that. Like I fell into it, but it was really because of mistakes I made, not because of anything I ever accomplished or did. So that's the short story on how I kind of got into this work and a little bit about our background.
Well, then that's so powerful. Thanks for sharing that, man. I've known parts of that story, but there were elements of it that I didn't know. So, but it makes sense to me that you're then where you are because it's not your creativity or education or GPA. It's none of those things. It's the steady constant, and at least since that moment, that reset for you is this art of encouragement. This is I think this is only setting up for how powerful your book is and why we need to read it and get it is because I think a lot of us have a limiting belief that I'm not smart enough, I'm not resourced enough, connected enough, I don't have the pedigree, I don't have whatever. They're easy outs to not pursue anything hard. I have them too. And every time I've had an evolution in my business or a pivot, whether it was from, I don't know how to start an online business. I didn't even know what an online business was in 2009, but I was starting one. I was like, I don't know anything about code or websites, but I don't know how to pivot to be a business coach. I'm the audio guy and no one will ever accept me as a business coach guy because they know me from this space. Like every time I've pivoted, I'm not an author. I can't write books. Like how am I going to get a book deal? Why listen to a YouTuber about wanting to write a book? It was all just excuses. And I think a lot of people make them. And so you're showing me that this constant thread is like the reason people trust you. And that's how you get business done is get people to trust you. It's not that we don't go with the best company or the smartest person. We go with the one that we trust. And that's who's going to win the business. And so as a coach, man, and probably in the financial planning space too, you're earning people's trust. So I love that. I think that sets it up for this art of encouragement. And when I met you and I knew you were writing this book or you'd already written and it was starting to come out, I was like, man, encouragement. I love that because I love encouragement. But how, like, is that relevant to everybody? And seeing your story, I'm like, dude, this is the secret sauce. This is why when I first went to that John Maxwell event in 2023 that you were supposed to be at, but then you had a family death and you couldn't be there. Multiple people were disappointed that I wasn't going to meet you at this event. Like, oh, it's too bad Jordan Montgomery's not going to be here because he's the guy you need to meet. I'm like, why? Like, who's this Jordan guy? Like, you had this, and it's because of who you are, man. And I just want to affirm that but it's because of how you have made these people feel. And I think that's why you've been elevated is because everywhere you go, you humbly put courage into, as John Gordon, our mutual friend, will say, encourages to put courage into other people. You help them believe in themselves, and that's attractive, man. So just want people to see that connection. So I love that in you, man.
Well, right back at you, man. I mean, I was bummed that I didn't get to be at the Maxwell event because I didn't get to connect with you and the other leaders who I've since been very encouraged by. And, I think we all are drawn to people who choose to see the best in us. Like, to be able to talk about people in an encouraging way or to highlight their features or ability or talent, you have to see it first, right? And so
Yeah.
I think you're one of those people for me, man. Like, you've decided to put the proverbial 10 on my forehead, even on the days where I probably didn't deserve it or I was disorganized or whatever. So I think you, Graham, also have this ability to see the best in people and then help bring it out. So right back at you, man. You've been a big encouragement in my life.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's unpack. You've got in the book these 10 arts of encouragement, which I love because it takes this abstract idea, like you said, and makes it more concrete. So maybe unpack a few of the ones. I know we don't have time to get into all 10, and people should pre-order the book, theartoфencouragementbook.com, or wherever books are sold. But unpack some of the ones that you think we could like apply like instant. Like when I go home and my wife's had a rough day, and I could encourage her, or my daughter when she comes home from cheerleading, or like my next coaching client. Like give us some of your favorite arts.
I think the first would be the art of character encouragement. It's the first chapter in the book. And I think we live in a world that has a tendency to overvalue charisma and undervalues character. Or another way to say that
Wow.
overvalues results and undervalues ability. So I think when we are able to take somebody aside and say like, hey, this is who God made you to be. Like, I see this in you. Like, these are your talents, traits, abilities, qualities. Versus just like, hey, Graham, way to go on the big sale, or way to go on the new book, or man, I saw you had a big month, or you crushed that speech, right? Like, actually, that's all the stuff that's really obvious. Like, everybody knows if you crushed a speech. Everybody knows who had the biggest week of sales. Everybody knows who won the award. And so I think that we leave it at that sometimes. It's like I tend to praise people and encourage people for what they do, instead of praising people for really who they are.
Wow.
But if you think back to the most important, meaningful, most encouraging conversations in your life. So I love to take people back to childhood. Like, go back to when you were a kid. Maybe it was middle school or high school. You had a teacher or a coach or a mentor. Somebody pulled you aside and they spoke some life over you. They deposited belief into you. They inspired you. They shared something about you that's never left. And you might not remember everything they said or everything that they did, but you do remember the way that they made you feel. It's Maya Angelou quote, right? And it rings so true. And so I think as leaders, it's this pursuit not just to be likable, but to be memorable, to create memorable, meaningful moments for people. If you praise someone for what they do, they might remember it. If you praise someone for who they are, they'll never forget it. So I could say to you, Graham, hey, man, I am so impressed, dude, with all that you're doing. Like, you got the new book Rebel coming out. You got this podcast. You're speaking all over the place. You got all these online programs. You're doing stuff with real estate now. Like, dude, just so impressed, man, with what you're doing. Like, it's crazy to see you manage all this and do it all so well. Now, you might find that to be encouraging, right? That would be an okay thing to say to you. And that's all true, by the way. So that's one way I could encourage you. But a different take on that would be to say that. But either before I say that or after I say that, I would say, Graham, dude, I just wanted to point this out about you. You have one of the kindest spirits of anyone I've ever met. And in light of all that you've accomplished, you've remained humble. I think you're really intuitive. I think your ability to read people and build relationships and establish trust quickly is so unique to you. That's an innate gift that God gave you. I actually think it's your ability to build relationships. That's those qualities in you and the way that you've stewarded those qualities that's allowed you to do all that you're doing. The podcast, the books, the speaking, the online programs. Like, man, people will trust you because of your kind spirit, your ability to read people, deposit belief, and build relationships. So, man, I just want to encourage you. That's who Graham Cochran is. That's who God made you to be. And I hope that you recognize that and see it. So that's the who over the do in the art of character encouragement.
Wow. Okay, well, now y'all know why I brought Jordan on, just to selfishly encourage me for 45 minutes.
Hey,
I don't actually care about I don't care about your book. I just want you to encourage me, man. Oh, dude, no, thank you for that. I received that. And dude, I think that's so brilliant, because what came up for me was the encouraging of what you do versus the who is, like you said, it's like it's pointing out what everyone else can see. It's the external, and that's all anybody sees. But the moment you go to someone and you point out the who you see them to be, it's almost like you're the person that can see inside their soul, and it becomes intimate really quick, even with a stranger. So for example, I was just on a phone call yesterday with a guy who's got a really big podcast, and it would be great if I could get on his show. I don't know if it'll work out, but we had a mutual friend, and I was like, hey, would you just connect me with this guy? Because I love his show, and maybe there's some, synergy there. But I was on just a phone call getting to know him. So he's a complete stranger. He doesn't know me at all, but I know his show and know a little bit about him. And in just 20 minutes, like I really got him to share some of his story, what he's going through right now. And I learned a lot about him. And you can learn a lot about how someone's character just from the way they talk about things if you're really listening. And all that to say, Jordan, one of the things I decided to do, because in the moment I just saw something about him. I said, Chris, you're the kind of guy who does X, Y, and Z. Like I said something about who he is because I just saw it. I wanted to call it out.
Yeah.
And it brought the conversation from two strangers that we have a mutual friend. So like we're being polite to each other to like, now we're intimate. He's like, oh. And then he drew closer to me. And by the end of the phone call, just 10 minutes later, he's like, bro, I feel like you're a close friend. And I don't know if I'll get on the podcast, but I know like we're going to be buds forever because everyone else could point out, oh, your show and this thing you did and your new book. But I spoke to who he was, and he like leaned in real close because we all are searching for someone to say, who am I? Those are the two questions that Dan Miller always said, like, who am I and why am I here? If you can answer those two questions, those are the most important questions. But we want to, who do you say I am? Random guy on the phone.
Yeah.
And that brings someone real close. So I love that, man.
And don't you think it speaks to the most important human need, psychologically, socially, relationally? Our most important need is a need to belong. It's a need to be seen. It's a need to be known. And so
Right.
if you help someone understand how they belong, where they fit in, and why they were created, and I think you just reach people and touch people in a different way.
I love that. Okay, so the who, not the do. Praise who they are, not what they do. What's another one of the arts of encouragement? Hey, friend, we'll get back to the episode in just a moment. Real quick, I hope you're enjoying the episode. And if so, please share it with somebody that needs to hear this episode today. It would mean so much to me. Also, I want to give you a gift for hanging out with me today. I want to give you my free $1 million life-giving business formula on-demand training. Inside of this less than 60-minute training, it will help you uncover your uniqueness to build a 7-figure boutique brand without burning out. This is some of my favorite material. These are the things that I'm taking my private clients through, but I want to share them with you in this free training. So if you've already built your business, but it's not giving you life, it's taking life from you, this is the training for you. It's absolutely free. Just go to grahamcochran.com/lifegiving. That's grahamcochran.com/lifegiving, all one word. And you can register for your spot right there. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, another art would be the art of elevating encouragement. So we all enjoy being around a person who elevates others, right? You are, Graham, an elevator of others. I mean, you're literally doing that right now as we're sharing this podcast conversation, right? You're like, dude, get on my podcast. I want to help promote your new book. I want to get your book out into the world. Like, let's talk about it. And even when I'm with you, like socially, right? Like you're just quick to point out, hey, Jordan does X, Y, and Z really well, or you should get to know Jordan because. And so, we love being around people who give us more opportunity. We all know those people, like the Graham Cochrans, who just, they open doors, they make connections, they make you look good, they make you feel good. You get around them and your world just gets bigger and brighter. And so my belief is this, that anytime we have the proverbial microphone, if you're in a team meeting, if you're with a group of people in your community or at your church, and maybe you feel like you're the least experienced person in the room or the least qualified person to speak, you still get an opportunity to speak. And if you make it your mission to elevate others and to make much of somebody's success or traits or qualities or achievement in front of a group of people, you become memorable. And you ultimately create real impact, right? Again, it goes to this idea that if you praise someone in public, they'll never forget it. If you praise them in private, they might remember it. But if you praise them publicly, they'll never forget it because you've created a moment for that person. A couple of practical tips, though. Like, I know we're talking to some solopreneurs and content creators. We probably also have some salespeople listening. Like, you want to win with people and be more encouraging. Here's some really easy, practical ideas. Number one would be get on social media and brag about your friends. Brag about the people that you care about. Like, elevate them via social media. Write them a review. If they're a podcaster, if they're a small business owner, solopreneur, if they're in the service business, real estate agent, financial advisor, attorney, accountant, whatever. Like, write them a review. Nominate them for an award. Every community has a 40 under 40 or 30 under 30, businessman of the year, businesswoman of the year, restaurant of the year, real estate agent, like whatever. Nominate people for awards. LinkedIn has this really cool button, the endorse button. If you endorse somebody on LinkedIn, you can endorse them for a skill. They get an email sent to their business account that they check all day, every day. Is that a relationship? No. But does it create a positive impression with your name on it tied to an endorphin release for that individual? The reality is, yes, it does. And so it's not just the right thing to do, but I actually think it's a really great way to build relationships, create memories, and become not just a likable person, but a memorable person when you really understand the art of elevating encouragement. You, Graham, do that so well and live that out as part of who you are.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. That's so powerful. You know what's coming up for me though, and maybe this is for someone, the specific idea of sharing and praising them on social media. It's a really good example. I can speak from experience that there was a season in my life, and there are still times that it does crop up, when I'm at my most insecure or my most fearful about what I'm doing, how my business or my brand's coming along, or whatever I'm pursuing is coming along. When I've been my most insecure, I'll see people doing great things, and I'll think about wanting to praise them because it's really awesome what they're doing. And they might even be my friends, but I can't bring myself to praise them publicly on social or share their new course launch or share their new podcast, because I'm like, it's going to drive people away from me and the thing I'm doing. And it reveals this like either or, black or white scarcity thinking. And I'm really ashamed to admit that but it's really real. I have felt that. And so maybe if you're listening, you felt that before. But what's so powerful about what you're saying, Jordan, is when you promote somebody else, like just today, Rory Vaden, our mutual friend, Rory had this great post. This is real time. Okay, let's be honest. He just posted this thing today or yesterday, and it was a beautiful picture of his family, which was great. It's a smart way to show off new family photos with this awesome like post beneath it. So kudos to him. But the post was so good about, what if the way to up level or get to our next level of success is by choosing less? And then he goes on to talk about less striving. What if we chose less notoriety, less money? This is something I believe in at my core, of being willing to go slower or not have as much success if it means I'm not going to be in the office as much because I'm going to be with my family more. And so and this is a part of my core message, but he said it so much better than me, bro.
Right.
And it was so good. And I was like, I want to share this because I believe in this message, and I believe in Rory, the guy, because he's a genuine, golden star of a dude like you are, Jordan. But I was like, but I wish I were the one that made this post, because I've been saying this stuff for like a decade, and I almost didn't because it came up in my mind. And I didn't want people to be like, oh, Rory's great. What's this great concept he came up with? So, but then I fought it and shared it. And two great things happened. One, Rory was super appreciative. He's like, bro, thank you so much, which just strengthens that friendship, right? Because everybody loves that. But then two, I felt good, because at the end of the day, like, I love when good people are winning. And it's, even though it's not me winning in this moment, it's more attention to him. That actually made me feel good, because that's where generosity comes in. Like that, if I were to write another book, it might be The Art of Generosity. And I feel like that's what encouragement and generosity, they're two sides of the same coin. You're giving something, and it feels so good when you give. Givers receive more than the receiver. So anyway, that's a real-time example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's powerful how it can not only bless you, but it does create a network of people that are like, dude, this Jordan guy's great. He's always promoting my stuff. Everybody loves someone who promotes their stuff.
For real, man. Like, and you hit the nail on the head. And I appreciate your transparency and vulnerability, because everybody listening can relate to what you're saying. Now, whether they want to admit it or not is another thing. But that's a real thing for everyone, right? Like, and it's a subconscious thing. I'm not even sure that we slow down to really process that. But I appreciate how you shared that, Graham. I would also say this: the people who are the most encouraged are the most encouraging. Just like the people who are the most connected are the most connecting. Like, connected people are connecting people, connecting people are connecting people. Encouraged people are encouraging people. I had a mentor who would always say, the world is a looking glass, and it gives back to each person a reflection of their own image. And so if you want to be more encouraged, man, start encouraging other people. And I also think it's silly and kind of interesting, Graham. We've all had this experience, right? So let's say there's this person that you're sort of neutral on, or maybe you're even less than neutral, like you don't really care for them. And then they comment on a post. And it's a really simple comment. Like, Graham, beautiful picture of your family. Or, Graham, keep leading, man. You're making a difference. And you sort of have this small subconscious moment where you're like, you know what? John's a good guy. Actually, I like John. Like, isn't it silly? So it's like, man, the art of elevating encouragement, like sometimes all it takes is 5 seconds in a small sentence to literally change how somebody feels, but also change the relationship that you might have with that person. So
Wow.
if that's true, then man, we should have a sense of urgency to do that more for other people. If we can move the needle and make people feel a certain way with a simple sentence, a small comment,
Come on.
a tweet, let's be more intentional on elevating others.
Oh, it's so good, man. Come on, I need this book to like be in my hands ASAP. I love it. Let's just get to one more, man. What's one more art of encouragement that you want our people to know today?
Yeah, we'll land the plane with the art of authentic encouragement. I'll tell a quick story here. I'll go back to my financial planning days. So I'm a 27-year-old young whippersnapper doing the financial planning thing. I was the cufflinks, bright colored tie, fancy dress shoes every day.
Yes.
You would have not liked me.
Yes.
But
Oh my
that's what
gosh.
I was, man, and loud and energetic. Anyway, that was me. So, I get let go, I get rehired. And when I get rehired, this mentor of mine named Tim Bohannon said, you need to go spend time with this coach. His name is Bob Tykert. Okay. Bob Tykert is this like legendary coach, works with a lot of salespeople. He was in his early 70s at the time. Hard-nosed guy, pretty candid, black or white. And he didn't tell me a lot about Bob, but I knew that Tim respected Bob. And he's like, so I already paid for the coaching session. Bob's down in the conference room. I want you to go spend an hour with Bob. So I'm like, whatever. I'm going to do what Tim says because I respect him and he kind of pulled me out of this bad situation. So I walked down to the conference room in Mendota Heights, Minnesota. I opened the conference room. Bob Tykert standing there. Black suit, bright red tie, really sharp looking guy. I say, Bob Tykert, I'm Jordan Montgomery. He says, hey, Jordan. I said, Bob, I got to tell you, I've heard so many good things about you. And Bob says, like what? And I said, oh, man, just
too many to name.
so many good things, like just,
Oh.
tons. And so he looks at me, not smiling, not really even showing any emotion. And he says again, that's great. Like what? And we sit down and it's sort of uncomfortable. And he looks at me and he puts his hand on the table. And he says, Jordan, I think you're full of shit. And he said, and that's part of your problem.
Wow.
And then he said, I want to help you with that. And then he helped me with that. And we just had this whole conversation, Graham, about authenticity. And I left that conversation thinking, I'm never going to put someone in that position again where they could so blatantly question my authenticity.
Wow.
I think as humans, we know when someone is being authentic or not. When we're receiving encouragement, I think we just sort of have this internal radar, like, I know this person's being real or they're not being real. But when we're giving encouragement, we think that people don't know that. And we live in a world where everyone is saying, attaboy, attagirl, attababy, keep going, you're the man, you're awesome, I appreciate you, with no meat on the bone. In other words, the encouragement just lacks authenticity. It lacks specificity. It lacks example. It lacks story. It lacks substance. And so it leaves people to question, like Bob questioned me, like, do you even really care? In fact, sometimes it works against us. I know a leader, and actually he's a really great guy, a really good dude. He's a very, very successful leader. And his line that he uses with everybody is, who loves you, baby? His own question, he says, I do. And I suppose it's kind of like this fun thing, but it's like just sort of awkward. And he just says it over and over. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And every time you say that, your people are questioning your authenticity. And so we all have those moments. And I still fail at this, Graham. Like, I don't always come with the specific example or the story, but I just think it's incumbent upon us, if we want to be authentic and ultimately impactful, when we encourage people, share a story, share an example, get specific. You do A, B, and C really well. You do X, Y, and Z really well. Our 4-year-old daughter just won this little dance competition, silly little competition, And I was really proud of her. Like, hey, good job, sis. Call her sis. Good job, sis. You won. Like, so proud of you. But then I had to catch myself and think, okay, I'm not proud of her because she won. I'm proud of
Mm,
her because she used her gifts, because she handled herself well, because she had this beautiful smile. Like I had to get specific with her about why I was proud beyond the fact that my little girl's holding this really insignificant medal that she'll never probably
yeah.
keep. And so we've all had those moments with people. I'm so grateful that Bob Tiker called me out
Wow.
at 27 years old. So that's at least a little bit about the art of authentic encouragement.
I love that, man. That's a powerful story, a powerful moment. I think one of the things about you, Jordan, that when I met you finally, like we met at John Gordon's event the day with John and Patrick Lencioni. We finally bumped into each other at that event. You were emceeing it, and then we were together at another Maxwell event in February. And I remember when I got to talk to you there, you came up to me and you just asked a real simple question that immediately I already knew I liked you, and we connected, and I was like, oh, I can see some of the things people say about Jordan when I first met you at the John Gordon event. But it was at the second time I got to hang out with you in person. You just asked me one question. You said, hey, Graham, how's your brother Wes doing? Because he was with me at that John Gordon event. You got to meet him there, and I was like, how did you remember my brother's name from like 6 months ago? From like the
Man, there's only one Wes, the Jag.
Well, he is. I agree. He's the man, dude. I love my brother dearly. He's my best friend. But like it wasn't even an encouragement of me. You asked a question that showed, oh, he actually was paying attention when we were speaking back in Dallas months ago, and even paying attention to someone else in the conversation that wasn't me. And I was just so impressed. I was like, oh, this is the kind of guy Jordan is. Like he zeroes in on the details. That it's one of the things that your book talks about is like encouragement also just means just being present with the person. Like you were present with us enough to pick up on the details of my brother's name and just asking that question. So like remembering people's names, remembering something about their family, like not as a hack to get them to think you're awesome, but just genuinely like, hey, ask them about the one thing you remember about them. It was an impressionable moment for me.
Well, in a moment of true transparency, and also just to let people know that I need this book as much as anybody else because the book's really full of reminders. Like I actually think a lot of this stuff, Graham, we inherently know how to do, we know what to do. So it's like this idea that people need to be reminded more than they need to be instructed, right? That's
Yeah.
Pat Lencioni. Your brother Wes, I think, actually reached out to me recently, and when you said his name, you know what I thought about? I didn't get back to him. So
Mm.
here you are bragging about how thoughtful I was with Wes. The reality is that dude sent me a message. I still got to get back to him. So anyway, I still have work to do. I think we all do, man. And
Yeah.
none of us are going to be perfect when it comes to how we make people feel. We have off days, but I just think if the world could take some of these principles a bit more seriously, and we were a bit more consistent, we'd all be better off.
100%, bro. Well, before I let you go, I have one question I ask every guest on the show that comes on. It's called the Golden Rule segment. We can go anywhere you want to go with this. Simple scenario, right? If your kids forgot everything that you taught them and your wife taught them, except for one piece of advice, one piece of wisdom that they would carry with them their whole lives and never forget, almost like a golden rule, what would you want that to be?
It would have to be just follow Jesus, stay close to the Lord. Because I think he is the ultimate source of encouragement and hope and inspiration. And so, yeah, man, stay close to the Lord. That would be it.
Right back at you, man. I love it. Guys, the book is The Art of Encouragement, How to Lead Teams, Spread Love, and Serve from the Heart. Jordan Montgomery. Get the book at theartoфencouragementbook.com. If you pre-order the book now, you actually will get a ticket to a live training that Jordan's doing with John Gordon and Ryan Leake and other incredible people. It's going to be an amazing event, so you get free access to that event if you pre-order the book. And then read it and apply it. It's going to change your life. I love it. When the moment I heard you were writing this, I was like, I can't wait to get my hands on this book. But Jordan, thanks for taking time out of your day to unpack some of it with us today. I love you, man. I love how you show up in the world. I think the world's a better place because you're in it and you're building people up. And I see that's why they want to do business with you and they want to support you. And so keep doing what you're doing, man.
Well, bro, you are a phenomenal friend. You're a phenomenal leader. You're a phenomenal podcast host. So much enjoyed this conversation with you today. And you've got a new book coming out, Rebel. Go get it. Graham Cochran. September release date, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, man. Look at you.
So,
Look at you. See?
so that's coming around the corner, man. So fun to follow your journey, be your friend, watch you shine, and witness your impact. So keep going, man. Keep being you. Thanks for having me today.
Likewise, brother. Talk to you soon.